People love to complain about the fact that they're broke. It doesn't matter who you are, what country you live in, or what social circle you're in. There is always someone who has trouble retaining their money. And chances are, that person is you. So today I'm going to share with you some of my personal methods that I've worked that I use to keep money in my pocket almost daily. And now before you go asking me for credibility on money and saving money, I'm no financial advisor. I'm not going to argue that I know how to trade in stocks or how to invest properly or how to do a myriad of other financial things. But the one thing I am good at is saving. I have enough money saved that if I live frugally, I could probably survive a year. And I don't care what the finance gurus keep telling you that you shouldn't save money because inflation and investing and this and that. You can't invest your money. You can't do anything those finance gurus are telling you without having some money. And to have money, you have to be able to retain it for more than 5 seconds. Okay? And one of the main things that people spend their money on, especially in the Western civilizations, is food. People waste so much money on restaurants. It's insane, bro. It's insane how much it costs to just go to a restaurant 9 times out of 10. Okay? If you go to a restaurant in the United States, on average, you're probably going to spend, let's say, if you're going to a fast food place, you're probably spending around $10 to $15, depending on what you're getting. If you go to an actual diner or some mid-range restaurant, you're spending anywhere between, $15 to $20 a person, maybe $25. And depending on what you're getting, it could go upwards of $30 per person. So, if you're spending $10 a day or $15 a day on eating out, and if you're eating out multiple times a day, the number just goes up, you have no idea how easily that compounds into a stupid amount of money at the end of the month. Let's say you're spending $20 a day on food, okay? $20 a day times 30 days. That's $600 a month on just food. And this is an extreme. Most people don't eat out every day. But I know quite a few people that do it multiple times a week. Now, if you're eating out 3 times a week, it's a stupid amount. You don't have to eat out that many times a week. For me, I go out once a week maybe to eat. 2 times if I'm really struggling to get things done and I don't have time. But the reality is I could make time. Most of the time I'm just lazy if I go out more than once a week. And the other thing people tend to do when they go out and eat so many times a week is that they also buy food from the grocery store. I can't even imagine how many times I've seen myself, or caught myself rather, go to the grocery store, buy a bunch of food, and then, oh, shit, it expires before I have time to eat it because I would rather go eat out instead of use the materials, or rather the ingredients, to cook my own food. And I'm very well able to cook, by the way. I'm very well able to cook. I have at least 10 things I can make off the top of my head, and they're 10 tasty things. It's not that I'm making boring food. I'm making interesting food that in many cases doesn't take much for me to cook or make rather. But nevertheless, like most people, I get lazy. And it's fine. It's fine to acknowledge that you're lazy and that you're spending a little too much money on food. But there comes a point where I see certain friends of mine that just eat out every day. Like every day. Some of them even have their parents cook for them, right? And they still eat out every day. Like, what's the point? At that point, you're just wasting everyone's money. You're wasting your own money, you're wasting your parents' money, and you're wasting food, honestly. Now, normally when you say this to people, they'll either say, oh, well, I don't know how to cook, and it's hard, and I don't have time. Well, let's unpack each and every one of those. Not knowing how to cook is not an excuse. You take the time and learn how to cook. Learning how to cook is not that hard. If you can figure out how to cook an egg, you pretty much have half of the cookbook open to you. Because you can make omelets, you can make sunny side eggs, there's so many things you can do with eggs that make your food interesting. If you learn how to cook rather eggs and pasta or spaghetti or whatever you want to call it, you can make carbonara if you learn how to cook eggs and pasta. You could cook higher quality ramen with hard-boiled eggs in it, which I love to do. You can make deviled eggs. There's so many things you can do with just eggs, and most of it is relatively easy. All you need is a pan and some creativity and some ingredients. You want to make your eggs more interesting? Add some onion into them. Add some garlic powder. Add some spices and seasoning. You would be amazed to see how the most boring of foods just become so much better with some spices and seasoning. Another great food to make is anything with chopped meat. I make tacos so often. You know why? Because all it is for tacos is putting it in a pan for 6 minutes, cutting up some tomatoes and some onions. Or if you don't feel like cutting up tomatoes and onions, go buy some salsa, like some store-made salsa. It's still cheaper than you going to a taco truck. Then add some cheese, maybe some beans, some sour cream if you're a bit of a wuss and can't handle spice, and you're golden. It probably will cost you like $1 to $2 per taco, rather than like the $10 to $15 you'll pay at some restaurant for 3 of them. So, stop eating out and cook your own food. It might suck for a bit, it might not be the best food you've ever had, but it'll definitely keep you fed. and it'll definitely become better the more you do it, okay? I personally love cooking. I don't do it as often as I'd like, but I should do it more. And the number one thing when you're a lazy person and you want to start cooking, cook things that you think you'll like. Don't cook the thing that your mom forced you to eat when you were a kid, okay? Because there's always that one food that moms would always make that you wouldn't like, okay? There's always one. And that one is the one that you never want to have. So you're not going to cook that. But what you might possibly cook is the favorite thing that your mom made for you. Or you go and find stuff that's not necessarily hard to make, but can also be tasty. You can buy a crock pot, you can buy an air fryer, and things become so much tastier with such little effort, it's insane. And if you say to me you don't have time to cook, that's bullshit. Straight up. Because unless you're working 3 jobs, there's no way you don't have enough time to cook. Cooking does not take that long unless you make it take that long, unless you're trying to make filet mignon every 10 seconds. If you choose the right recipes and you prep your meals for like a week, it will take you maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours per day or per week, depending on, like I said, prepping or not prepping your food. But in any case, let's get off the food topic. Because some people might not eat out. Some people might be aware of the fact that eating out is a problem and you shouldn't do it all the time. That's fine. Well, here's number 2. Number 2 is you don't need to go out with your friends every single time they invite you to go out. Okay? You don't have to go to the bars, to the clubs, to the rock climbing gym every weekend because that costs money. Okay? You can do things that are cheaper with your friends, or you can just skip a day. I understand that FOMO is a problem. I understand that you want to hang out with them, but if you're broke, you most likely won't be able to do everything with your friends. However, you can do other things. You can do cheaper activities. You can go to a park and maybe you can toss a frisbee around or something. Frisbees are cheap. They shouldn't cost more than $5, honestly, in most cases. Go outside, maybe go for a walk, go hiking. Hiking is one of the cheapest things you can do, and it's usually free. Unless you're going to some major trail that has a entrance fee or something, which I haven't personally gone to. National parks don't require an entrance fee, I don't think. I need to find Enderman, by the way. This is why I'm out here. Oh shit. Let's not die here, because I really don't feel like walking all the way back here. Come here, pal. Come look at me in the eyes. Look at me in the eyes. You're so pretty. You're so pretty. You're not pretty. You're bony ass motherfucker. I can't even express to you the amount of times I said no to going out with my friends because straight up it was just too expensive for me to do it. There are times when they would say, oh, let's go to Philadelphia, let's go to New York, let's go to one of these places that requires us to take 2 trains, a car, pay for Ubers, all kinds of things that I just straight up couldn't afford. Or other times where there's been a party and I just had to drive there, spend a lot of money on gas, then maybe spend money on alcohol, and I just didn't do it because I didn't have the money. And by doing that every once in a while, you don't have to skip every outing with your friends, but if you skip a couple, you're not going to miss out on all that much. Sometimes the outing with your friends isn't even that worth it. I can name so many times where I've gone out with friends and it just hasn't been worth the amount of money I spent to go do said activity with them. And there's other times when I've gone out with friends that we didn't do really much of anything other than hang out in a park, and it was 10 times more fun. And if your friends aren't understanding of the fact that you don't always have money, well then you need to start hanging out with different people. Or you need to explain to them hey, I'm not as breaded as you guys are right now. Can we please do something else? Method number 3 of saving more money. You need to conserve energy. Now, this really goes for people that are paying rent, utilities, and all kinds of things and have a house or an apartment or something of the sort. But when you leave a room, turn off the lights. There's a reason your parents used to yell at you every time when you left your lights on in the room. Turn off your fans, turn off your computer, turn off your monitors, turn off anything that you use that requires power. You'll save energy, which means you'll save money in the end. And this is especially for the more Western developed countries. If you leave your air conditioner on 24/7, you're going to spend so much money on that power bill. It's insane. I remember when I had an apartment, or not an apartment. I rented a house in my last year of college, and we had internal air, internal air conditioning. The first air conditioning bill, because we left that thing on 24/7, was astronomically ridiculous. The guy whose name was on the bill for that was livid because I think it was $2,000 that month or something, because we were stupid and we didn't realize how much we were spending. We had to go on a payment plan to pay off that bill. So don't leave your shit on. Another great thing that's been instilled by my mother: shop for things on sale. Okay? There are sales happening all the time. There are sales that are happening with coupons. There are sales that are happening with just straight up stores wanting to sell more items, or like they have too much of some certain stock and they'll put it on sale for 50, 20% off. When you're looking to buy things, buy them on sale. And by the way, don't buy things that are on sale just because of the fact that they're on sale. Buy them because you want them and they also happen to be on sale. You don't have to buy everything that's on sale just for the sake of it being on sale, okay? That's the mistake. That's the trap. But if you buy things that are on sale when you want to actually buy them, or like you remember that you want to buy this thing and it's on sale, that's an actual way to save money. A way I save money is on video games. Every year, I really wait for the Steam sales to happen so I can buy certain games that I don't think are worth the amount of money that they're selling them for at full price. I bought the entire Half-Life collection for $4 on this Steam summer sale. You know how much of a steal that is? And that wasn't even really a necessity. That was kind of a want. Now, there are certain countries where you can't rely on sales for things. Not every country has the amount of sales that, say, the United States have. But let's say in my home country of Greece, we have sales twice a year for like major things like clothes, and I think there's like a summer sale, and then they do like a Black Friday thing these days, I think. And that's when my mother would buy clothes. That's when my mother would do all her shopping for that type of stuff. And I'd follow up on the clothes part. You don't have to buy name brands, okay? Name brands are literally just logos on the same quality of clothing as the non-name brands. And you may not believe me, but it's true. The only difference between the name brand and the non-name brand is the logo. Okay, you're paying for the advertising and the marketing. Because guess what? Every shirt you buy, by like 90% of the time, unless you're like outsourcing it to some like, cornfield in Iowa that specifically makes shirts because they want to save the environment and not do it through sweatshops. They're all made by the same guy in the same sweatshop in either China, Vietnam, or one of the 5 countries that show up on labels these days. They all come from the same factory. The only difference is one company pays them more to put their logo on it. That's the main difference, okay? And of course, it's not exactly that black and white. You, of course, can't trace it to the exact factory, but I'm sure there's like 5 or 10 factories in a row. One of them is the Adidas one. One of them is the Adidas discount brand version, which happens to be the factory right next door and uses the same schematics and the same fucking everything other than the logo. And if you do want to get brands, go to thrift stores. Go to thrift stores. Not every country has access to thrift stores, but there's pretty much every country has some sort of second-hand market, okay? We didn't have thrift stores where I grew up, but we did have this bazaar that would happen every year in October, and they would sell, name brand things. Some of them were fake, some of them were real, and they were just either used or they were just, discounted or whatever the hell. And if you're really stuck on buying the name brands, just wait a little bit for them. Buy things when they're out of season or when they've existed for a year already and they're not as, popular. Sure, you won't have the most newest Nike swoosh shoe or whatever the hell, but you'll have more money in your pocket, that's for sure. And speaking about things that are, a little bit older and you buy them secondhand or buy them, a year later, you don't need the newest iPhone every damn year, okay? iPhones don't change. They have been the same thing every year with the exception of a better processor by 0.5% and a better camera by another 0.5%. Most consumers don't need 8K video and photo. Okay, consumers don't need that stuff. Leave that for the professionals. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with the 47 cameras that the iPhone has, the newest iPhone has, versus the one that was the year before? Or whatever, the quality that it has. What are you going to do with the fact that it's the newest one? It might last you maybe another year extra, and the warranty might be a little bit better. But in reality, there's no difference. It's the same phone with minor differences to the average consumer. Better yet, buy an Android because in almost every way other than iMessage and FaceTime, they're better. Why are there so many creepers around me, bro? Like I could build a crater. You know what? Let's build a crater. This is what an iPhone is going to do to your bank account. Okay, the crater is not working very well, but you get what I mean. And by the way, this is not just about phones. This is about anything technology-wise. Like do your research and see. Okay, why is this better? Why is this one better? Don't just buy an Alienware computer because it's an Alienware computer. Buy the HP computer maybe because it has better specs and better output and better whatever than the Alienware actually does have. So, don't buy the latest iPhone. Buy the one that is, a couple years old. And if it's a Droid, buy the, an older Samsung or Huawei or whatever the hell phone brand you use. I've had a Samsung Galaxy S20 ever since 2020. And before you ask me, yes, it did come out that year, but it was given to me by a different YouTuber for free, and I've kept that phone for 4 years. And I could buy the same phone today and be completely fine with it. I wouldn't need to buy a new phone for a while because this thing is still so good and honestly has treated me great. Now, I might upgrade sooner or later to something new, but I don't necessarily have to. And last but not least, the best way to save money on things is to learn how to do things by yourself. Okay? Recently, I posted this picture of my computer, and I was pissed about it because I had to buy new parts for my computer. Okay? I had to buy new parts and replace them because something was wrong with it, whatever. I had to buy specifically a solid-state drive and new cooling for my processor because it was overheating. And now the purchase itself cost me about, $180-ish, $190 with tax. And I spent another $40 diagnosing the computer with what issues it had. Now, I wouldn't have even spent the $40 on the diagnostic if I knew what exactly the issue was. Because normally I can figure that stuff out myself. But unfortunately, this was one of those times where it was worth, spending money on figuring out what the issue was exactly. And luckily I'm tech savvy, and I've always have been. I found 0 Enderman in this entire video. Like, what? Where are they? But other than the parts themselves and that diagnosis on the issues, I didn't spend any money putting it together because I taught myself how to do it through YouTube University. And that's right, I learned how to build my first computer, and I learned how to upgrade my other computer a couple of times just by looking at YouTube videos. And it was so much cheaper to do so because had I asked for somebody to install these things for me, I would have probably spent another $100 to $200 just on installation fees for something that would have taken, in most cases, probably an hour to do because it's not too hard to install computer parts because all it is like knowing where to plug certain things in and maybe a couple screws here and there. Sure, there's a couple of delicate pieces like you shouldn't bend the pins on your motherboard for the processor, but that's not that big of an issue. You learn to be careful with things like that. So $200 is a stupid amount of money to save on something that would have taken you an hour or have taken some professional an hour or two to do. Plus I would have waited like 3 to 4 days for them to do it because I'm not the only customer, right? They have other people that they have to accommodate before me. So learn to do things yourself. I understand that there's certain things that you can't do yourself, but there's a hell of a lot of things that you can do yourself. And it also makes you feel so good about yourself. It's so much more rewarding. Like it makes you feel like you have this new skill when you learn how to do things yourself and this new usefulness as a person. It's insane. I have not found more than 1 Enderman in an entire Minecraft night cycle. What the Anyway, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you found this useful on how to save money. And as always, good night and good luck, everybody.